Oh, hey! So I have a new book coming out in January, and as an author, you obviously you write a book, but writing a book is only going to make you an author in so many ways. So the only way that you can truly call yourself an author is if you knit yourself a sweater that goes along with the book. My last book that came out in 2021, I did a sweater that was nice, but it wasn't really. I mean, I haven't been wearing it very often. I think it's in storage under the bed, and so it's I don't know. When it came time to do a sweater for this new book that's coming out in January, which is called George Falls Through Time, uh, I wanted to make a sweater that I would actually want. How do I say this? A sweater that I'd actually wear around town. The other one was it was nice, but it was a little too chunky, and then it had a bird on it, and the fit wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to. So with this one, I was like, let's do smaller stitches. Let's use a thinner yarn. Let's choose some nice colors that I like, and let's really go to town and make it really nice. The problem with that is that this is taking forever. For the pattern, I mean, these little easy symmetrical patterns I'm just kind of doing off the top of my head. This big thing is I drew it myself using just like one of those free pixel art websites. So I'm using that as a guide. I've created just kind of a grid to kind of help me not get lost. When you're doing a project like this, your brain just completely shuts off, and I think that's probably why I like knitting. I've mentioned it before in my videos, but I can't even I can barely talk and record a video while I'm knitting. Um, so yeah, it's been nice. It's a nice activity to do as an author because you finished your book, you're done, your brain can relax, and now um, maybe if you have a hard time relaxing, knitting forces you to relax because it just automatically shuts down your brain. And having to follow a really specific visual pattern like this, it's even more just comatose. Oh, what is my book about? The title is George Falls Through Time. Here's the cover. Very nice. So it's about a guy named George, and he falls through time. So he is living in London, and he's really up against it. He's recently been broken up with, he's lost his job, and he's just kind of hit a wall in life. And one day he accidentally goes through that wall and he time travels because that's what happens when you're so stressed out. So George time travels and he ends up in the year 1300 in the middle of London. And the book is kind of just about what he gets up to while he's there. He doesn't have a very good time at first because he doesn't understand the language or the people. He gets thrown in a dungeon and it's not very pretty at first, but then he slowly starts to figure out a life for himself there. He makes friends, he falls in love. So the book, I guess, explores that escapist fantasy that we all have, and then the conflict that rises up when we realize all of our modern problems are still going to exist no matter where in time we are. The inspiration for the book came from, I don't want to call this a pandemic novel or a lockdown novel because it really wasn't. But the impetus for it was sitting in the middle of the park in London during the pandemic, and there was just nobody around, and everybody had either fled the city or, there were no tourists or anything, and there were no airplanes or cars, hardly any cars. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is what London probably used to sound like centuries ago. I guess that was the closest I could have ever gotten to the taste of living in medieval London, which I've always kind of been fascinated with anyway. So I had that idea in the back of my mind, and I put off writing it for for years. I didn't, because I was like, I'm not going to write a time travel novel. I'm not going to write a novel about like medieval fantasy or anything like that's not my lane as an author. So I didn't. But yeah, it just stayed in the back of my mind, and I was like, I've got to at least do something with this. I've got to explore this idea somehow. And I was working on another project, worked on another project after that, and then I finally just decided to do it. I'm like, okay, let's just indulge in this thing and let's just chase it, and just to get it out of my head. My main goal with this book was to be as honest as possible. I mean, obviously, I did lots of research and I really like immersed myself in the world. But the main thing I wanted to focus on was, okay, what would it actually be like for a person like me to suddenly be in this world? Because I think that's the easiest way for a reader to really get into this world, not focusing exactly on the history, the politics, or the different characters throughout history, or how exactly medieval life functioned, but really just focusing on that initial thing that I heard that first time, which was that silence. There's nothing going on, but there's so much going on, and it's just a completely almost alien world, but it's our world. And so that was kind of my goal. But obviously, like I like a book that has, a nice story to go along with it. So George ends up in this world, but some stuff happens, and he kind of goes on an adventure, which I will probably reveal more of when this pattern gets revealed. So up until this point, it's been pretty simple. I've just got kind of easy little symmetrical patterns. I've got some red and gold, which kind of looks like flames. I've got these little red hearts. I've got, I don't even know what this is, green and just something little squiggly red. And now I've got this green thing that I'm repeating all the way around. Can you guess what this is? Because it's going to take me a couple days before I finish this part. I'm about halfway done. I've got another inch or so left to do. So it's a dragon. This is my little dragon pattern that I've drawn out. I've got 3 dragons on here that I could squeeze on, and I like how it looks. I'm happy with the pattern, at least. I like, the colors, the shading, everything, it works out nicely, and I like the shape of it. If I could do this again, I probably make it a little bit smaller, because especially this tail is like, there's just too much white space, which, I'm fine with it visually, it looks fine. The problem that I'm finding kind of annoying is the floats. I'm just not good at carrying my floats, and so it's gotten kind of tight in this section. I'm hoping I can kind of loosen it up a little bit. I really like it though. It took forever. Now I'm moving on. So now what I'm going to do is, because I'm satisfied, well, I'm mostly satisfied with this length. I don't want it to be too long of a sweater, and I tend to err on the side of too much length. But if this is too short, I can always go back on the ribbing and make it a little bit longer by a couple inches. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm ready to do the armholes. So I'm going to move these onto straight needles now, and then I can separate the front from the back and then just work each side. This part is fun because you get to take your project off your circular knitting needles, and you get to kind of trick yourself into thinking that you're going really fast by doing the front side. But then once you're finished with the front side, you realize, oh, I have a whole back side that I have to do as well. Here is a little behind the scenes just to show you how much I've made my life a living hell. No matter how organized I think I'm being with stranded color work, it just never works out. I always end up with this ratty nest. And I mean, luckily the project itself is going well, but at what cost, you know? So the hardest part of this sweater is over. Well, I actually don't know. I think the hardest part was this first dragon. I went ahead and I'm no longer knitting in the round, as I said previously. So I've still got another half. I have to do the back side of the sweater still. So that's on reserve. I'm currently working on the front side. So I moved this section, this front half, onto flat knitting, and I've just been doing that. And now I've split it off and I'm gonna do the neckline. So right now I'm doing, I guess this is gonna be the left shoulder, and then this is gonna be the right shoulder. And I hope I'm gonna be able to mimic these same patterns. I mean, I'm just gonna build this up and then I'm gonna do the exact same patterns on this one as well. The hardest part for me, when I was doing flat knitting, I thought, oh, let's do another dragon, because why not? And I didn't want to repeat this one again because of the huge white gaps that I had to do. So I went and I tried to design another thing, and it kind of took a while to come up with something. I ended up going with just like a close-up, I guess. These are little dragon heads breathing fire. I think it looks good. The back side of it looks okay. The floats were a little intense. So now I'm just finishing up the shoulder, which is going pretty fast because I've only got about like 45 stitches on here that I'm going back and forth with. The only thing that is a bit of a pain is I'm kind of running out of ideas for patterns. So I've done lots of squares, and that's kind of it. I could do something a little more like crisscrossy, Nordic-y looking, but you know, I want to say I'm halfway done, but I'm not, because this is the front half. If I finish this, I still have to go do the whole back half. The back half, I'm not going to do this dragon pattern. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to keep it simple and plain, and we'll just have the dragon on the front. I mean, look at what I have to deal with here. This is ridiculous. Welcome to some voiceover narration, because at this point I hadn't fully given up on giving little video updates, but you just kind of, you know, days go by, weeks go by, and you just sort of lose track of time, very similar to my novel. So here I am knitting on the couch. At this point I was working on the back side of the sweater, which was essentially just the same as the front, but I had changed the pattern up. You can't really see in this clip, but the pattern that I've introduced here is of pop bottles, plastic bottles. So that's another thing in the book, and it actually ends up looking very cool at the end of the completed sweater. And also, as I am recording this, I'm realizing, did I ever clarify that it's going to be a sweater vest? This isn't going to have sleeves on it because I just don't have the time to do sleeves. So this is going to be a sweater vest. And then here I am trying it on for the first time just to make sure I have enough material, which is always a harrowing experience. That first dragon pattern that I did made things very, very tight. And then here I am knitting on the floor. Does anybody else do that? At this point, I think I was finishing off the back and then connecting it with the sleeves with the Kitchener stitch. And then here I am talking to camera, and you can just tell that I'm trying to think of something to say because whole months have gone by. I think I started this project in June and then I finished it end of September, start of October. So it's been a while. One thing I did go back and do is I was a little concerned with the length on the bottom, so I went back and put it on the circular knitting needle, and then I just redid that 1x1 ribbing and made it a little bit longer. After that, I moved on to the neckline, which went pretty fast, so I just did a 1x1 ribbing with this red yarn, and then I drowned it in the bathtub. So I let it soak for a bit and then I started blocking it. So I tried to stretch it out as much as I could, especially with those dragon patterns, and it turned out okay. So here it is before the blocking and here it is after. So it's quite a sizable difference. This is your PSA to always block your knitting when you're finished. Okay, final fit check. These these endings to these videos are always kind of anticlimactic because I'm just kind of like spinning around in this slightly saggy sweater vest. So I'll cut in some I don't know, fancy footage of me trying to do my best modeling here. Overall, really like how it turned out. I think it looks great. I'm really proud of the patterns. I mean, it was definitely a learning experience doing these dragons, especially this first one, but I think they turned out really good. If I were to do it again, I would probably add something into this white space just so it's not such a gulf of white. And I mean, if I turn this inside out, which here's a picture of what it looks like, the floats are insane. So I would probably want to redesign this a little bit, keep the same shape with the dragon, but add something here, maybe some trees or something, just so the floats are not as intense on the other side and pulling the fabric kind of weirdly. So that is it. This is how you write a novel and then knit a sweater based on your novel. The book is called George Falls Through Time. It's out January 20th, 2026. Pre-order it now. I've got links all down below in the description, which you can click on as many times as you like. Yes, there will be an audiobook as well, so that is an option. You can listen to the book while you knit. Perfect combo. Thanks for watching. You can leave a comment. I'll see you later.